here we go. New book, new music, same low-effort intro. Let's have some fun. Of course, we'll begin with the Ninja no Chigiri. I am Ninja. My parents are the heaven and the earth. My home is my body. My power is loyalty. My magic is training. My life and my death is breathing. My body is control. My eyes are the sun and the moon. My ears are sensitivity. My laws are self-protection. My strength is adaptability. My ambition is taking every opportunity with fullness. My friend is my mind. My enemy is carelessness. My protection is right action. My weapons are everything that exists. My strategy is one foot in front of the other. My trust is in Quan. My way is the way of the tiger. Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more Way of the Tiger. Now before we continue, I actually recorded this last night and had some terrible dice rolls and was slain by the half-orc slave takers. But I did not upload that episode because accidentally, at one point in the video, I had some information up on the screen that should not have been there. So, had to scrap the recording. Oh well, I didn't learn much I didn't know already. So let's look at this. I failed to punch the leopard, got shredded for 13 damage. Is it leopard or panther? I can't remember. Failed to hit something. Nope. Kicked a half-orc, did... No. Huh. When I got to fight them, kicked inner force for 6 damage, which wasn't enough to drop their 9 endurance. Luck roll, 5 and a 6, totally fine. Kicked normal kick with no inner force, took one out. But by this point I had... I'd taken some damage prior in there. Because when I got to fight them, I had something like 3 health left. Yeah, so basically, didn't go great. Now, something I mentioned at the beginning of the recording last night is that an old school cheater, at the point of having taken, the moment where I didn't trust my gut and took a very wrong decision in the previous episode, an old school cheater would just go back to the previous section, take the other choice, and never learn. They would learn, oh, that is the correct choice, but they wouldn't learn why. Whereas an old school non-cheater would go back to the beginning of the game, play through the meditation sequence with the Grandmaster of the Dawn, see the gates of heaven with the stairs beyond and the cherubs surround it, and the spirit tiger coming out to greet him, and go, ah, This is why I should have chosen the path to heaven instead of the path to the Elysian fields. Now, the fact that I had something like a week and a half in between recording sessions probably played into that a bit, because I knew that I should remember something, but I didn't go back and actually check, because I didn't want to derail the recording. Now, up to this point, which is the beginning of the previous episode, the only dice roll has been the one at the very beginning of the book to see which of my combat modifiers improved, and I rolled a 5. And technically, since that roll is before the beginning of the adventure, I can claim that I'm technically restarting from the beginning of the adventure, not the beginning of the book or end of the previous book, and keep that roll of a 5, because it's the 5 and 6 are the two best rolls you can get, and I'm quite happy with that. So anyway, let's get into this and have some fun. It is a glorious and sunny morning, the first day of Demondom, when you set out with Glavis the Ranger from the city of Tor. Glavis has done much to prepare those people of his city who might be relied upon to fight against evil should Honoric lead the Legion of the Sword of Doom to war, but he believes it is safe to leave the city for the month of Demondom. He has recently survived an attempt on his life by the Assassin's Guild, and he has heard that one Mandrake, Guildmaster of Assassins in faraway Wargrave Abbas, has spread the word that he is interested in your whereabouts. Glavis suggests that you leave the well-trodden paths of the many towns and villages around Tor behind, and strike out north towards the deep forests of Arcadan. We could agree, or we could argue that we would like to make quicker progress by using the roads. Okay, facts that should influence this decision. Glavis is an experienced ranger, scout, woodsman, traveller in the wilderness. He is so renowned and respected that the people of his city look up to him as a major hero and authority figure. You know, he's literally preparing them to defend the city, right? He's been training people, funding them, giving them equipment, and so on, right? Number 2. This is his home, his local area. He is the expert guide in this location, and in fact in probably many other locations as well. And the third thing, I don't remember any sense of a time limit, any sense of urgency surrounding a need to get to the city of Irsmuncast swiftly. That sense of urgency will come soon during the journey, but for now, we can be patient. If our foe knows we are coming, he won't know when or how. And we have no reason to suspect he knows just yet. Let's try to avoid detection, because while the headmaster of the Guildmaster of Assassins in Wargrave Abbas wants to know about us, I believe we saw someone in town spying on us in a workshop, or I could be wrong. Anyway, let's not get into too much trouble. You turn north together and look towards a horizon where low hills are swathed in a blue-green haze of forest. Glavis covers the ground as quickly and untiringly as you, and you settle down for the night at the forest edge. He tells you that, like many forests, the forest of Arcadan brings its dangers, but that, with his guidance, you should avoid most of them. He cautions you that should you become lost, you must head north towards the mountains of Horn before turning east, and at all costs avoid the crypts of Arcadan at the forest heart. Your night is troubled by dark dreams. The malice of the gods of evil seems to be withering your heart, turning its edges black and dead. As you sleep, your mind fills with a vision of a gigantic black bubbling cauldron inside which some unnatural fiend is being brewed by mighty and dark minds. The power of the gods of evil is great indeed. Ah. On the next day you plunge deep into the forest, which is filled with beautiful trees and ferns. Majestic elms canopy the brown-leafed ground dappled in sunshine. A leopard, unseen by you but not Glavis, stares down from the crooked limb of a plane tree. Soon the ground becomes moist and mossy, and the leaf carpet gives way to marsh marigolds and spider-grass. Despite the beauty of your surroundings, a feeling of grim foreboding oppresses you. Glavis shouts a sudden warning, and you look round, but the danger is from above. Another leopard lands on top of you, biting and raking with its claws. You fall to the ground, lose 4 endurance points, and then leap up as the leopard is on you again, so we will lose those 4 endurance points before springing to our feet. Will you block as the leopard springs, or meet it with an iron fist punch? Well, I've discussed the possibility of trying the whole shark punching thing. And if you fail, that involves taking 9 more damage. Let's try a block, because we didn't try that in the failed recording last night or the first time. The theory being that we might be able to raise a fist into a punch quicker than we might be able to block or get our body out of the way. The speed of the leopard takes you quite by surprise, far faster than a man, as indeed I had predicted. You are bowled to the ground once more, but your block stops the leopard's fangs close on your jugular vein, and a word from Glavis seems to quiet the animal, which trots away, soon lost to sight in the dappled sunlight. You flank Glavis and journey on, whilst he tells you where to watch out for leopards lurking in the trees. A much safer option. Glavis leads you on through the silent forest. The trees crowd in, and you are walking uphill through a deep green gloom with straight pine trees. At last, the ranger brings you out to a leaf-littered clearing where you stop to rest. There are signs that some man-like being has lived in the clearing. You point them out, and Glavis says, "The forest sprites. They are mischief-makers, and sometimes worse, but I had hoped they might help us. They are in my debt." "I hadn't seen any sign of them before," you say, and Glavis replies, "They are avoiding us, but take care of your belongings." As the gloom deepens, the sense of dread that invaded your sleep yesternight descends again. When it is your turn to sleep, your slumber is fitful, and the dreams return to haunt you. You see huge, threatening figures. One, hawk-faced, is more than 100 feet tall. It is standing in Dis, the iron city of the underworld. Before it, something is being created in a gigantic black bubbling cauldron. You can see a loathsome winged fiend like a son of Nil shimmering in the steam. Then the dream changes. A great white leopard stalks towards you. Then you realize it is not a leopard, but the blue-eyed spirit tiger that serves your god, Quan the Redeemer. She seems to be saying that when the malice of the gods of evil bears black fruit, you must seek her on the spirit planes where you wandered with the Grandmaster of the Dawn. When you awake, Glavis is preparing a breakfast of nuts and roots, and as soon as you have eaten, you set off again. The next day, your progress becomes slower as you wind your way over a series of forested gullies, telling Glavis of your dreams as you go. He says that he is unable to reach the spirit planes, but he gives you a piece of mandrake root like a little misshapen man, and says that if you wish to reach the spirit plane, eating the root will help to prepare your mind for the journey. As night approaches, it begins to rain, and the moisture soaks slowly through the trees. I'm not going to write the mandrake root down on our equipment list for obvious reasons. The obvious reason being that it won't be there for very long. The steady beating of the rain on the treetops lulls you to sleep, only to dream again of the evil gods and their hatred of you. Once more you see the hawk-faced figure. Its eyes are black and its skin silver. It is Nemesis, Lord of the Cleansing Fire, the supreme principle of evil. Before the god, the black cauldron bubbles, and the loathsome fiend bursts at you suddenly from beneath the surface and looks at you. Its eyes are hooded and black. Its face glistens silver in the moonlight. It has no mouth and chin. Instead of hands, it has 2 spikes of bone like blunted horns. Suddenly, it spreads huge black leathery wings and launches its bulk into the night. You know that it is coming for you. You wake with a start to a thrill of fear. You can hear nothing, but you know something is wrong. Glavis stands stock still on watch. He seems on edge, and you cannot hear any of the night sounds that should fill the forest. An unnatural chill gust of wind whips the leaves into a whirlpool before you, and Glavis starts uneasily. Will you eat the mandrake root and try to call the spirit tiger? Launch yourself into a winged horse kick at the whirlpool, or walk towards Glavis and wait to see what happens? We will, of course, consume the mandrake root and try to reach the spirit tiger and call upon it for aid. As it's a direct servant of the god Quan, we should absolutely trust and believe. Because we are playing a monastic character, which is a nice way of explaining a lot of the visions and experiences we get to have. The root tastes bitter, but its juices have an immediate effect, seeming to muddy your thoughts. You decide to try to find the spirit tiger on the spirit plane. The leaves are still swirling in the chill wind. Will you try to project your mind into the spirit plane by force of will, or meditate and try to set your mind free from the shackles of your body? Well, the root is supposed to help us reach the spirit plane, and it has muddied our thoughts, making it harder for us to concentrate and try and think forcefully. We're relaxed, we're mellow. We got there by meditating in the first place. That's what we're going to do again. Using your power of mind over matter, you force yourself to ignore the threat that seems about to confront you and relax utterly. The root has freed your mind from the ties of belief which bind it to your body, and your spirit flies free. You feel yourself floating gently upwards, and below you can see Glavis on the top of your own head, but Glavis cannot see you. He starts as a dark shape begins to take the place of the swirling leaves, but your spirit is borne away suddenly by a gust of ethereal wind. In sudden panic, you realize that you can hardly help yourself here on the spirit plane, but you dimly sense pathways stretching through the ether. The dark shape looms behind you. The beast, whatever it is, has managed to follow you onto the spirit plane, which means that Glavis is probably safe for the time being. The wind whirls you towards a parting of ways, and something tells you that the right-hand path leads towards the gates of heaven, while the left leads towards the Elysian fields. You struggle to take one of the paths. Will you take the right path or the left? In our meditation with the Grandmaster of the Dawn, we met the spirit tiger at the gates of heaven, so that is the path we shall take. Somehow your mind gropes its way to the right-hand path, and then the ethereal wind bowls you onwards. Behind you is a dark shadow which looms ever larger, the spirit of the fiend from the pit. It can travel the byways of the ether as easily as you would walk down a flagged road. Ahead of you is a gleaming archway, beyond which a silver pathway stretches up into white clouds. Cherubs who once flocked around its pillars are racing away up the silver path, but the guardian angel of the gateway of the seven heavens stands resolute. He is clad in flawless white armour from head to foot, and his face is like that of a saintly paladin. "You may not pass." His voice sounds a sorrowful but dire warning. The fiend from the pit is taking shape behind you once more, and the guardian angel looks grimly determined, feet braced wide on the steps to the gateway. The feet of your silvery, ethereal form are on the bottom step. Will you tell the guardian angel that you seek the spirit tiger? Try to slip past the guardian angel using whatever skill you have, perhaps acrobatics. Yeah, it doesn't even matter what we use, right? Unless that would go to a section where we're given a few different offers. Or call to the spirit tiger as loudly as you can. Well, the spirit tiger instructed us to come and seek her aid. If we ask the guardian to go and fetch the spirit tiger or to summon her, then we're not seeking her aid, we're seeking his. If we try and sneak past, we will be ignoring what an angel has told us, and that's probably a bad idea. So we will call out to the spirit tiger as loudly as we can. If you do your best, God will do the rest. As soon as you call, a sinuous form takes shape behind the guardian angel on the silver road. It is a perfect tiger, but her fur is white and her eyes blue. The spirit tiger, servant of Quan the Redeemer. The fiend's face creases in feral rage as it realizes it has been denied its quarry, even at the instant of the kill. The magnificent silver spirit tiger, flawless and powerful, launches herself at the grisly fiend, and a bloody battle begins. The usually calm spirit tiger bites and rakes her claws at the fiend with bestial ferocity, although her head is belaboured by crushing blows from the arms of horn. At last, the fiend from the pit realizes that death is about to take it. The horns score deep furrows down the spirit tiger's flank, but her jaws finally meet in the fiend's neck. Its grisly form shrivels and is gone. Just its soul, like a blackened and shriveled grub, is left to be carried back to the underworld on the ethereal wind. You are about to offer prayers and thanks to the spirit tiger when the guardian angel speaks a single word. Hlandimion. And you find your mind pouring itself back into your inert body. Glavis starts with relief as he sees you move again, for your body has been absolutely still. You tell him what has happened and settle down once more to take what rest you can, free of the feeling of malice that had so darkened your thoughts of late. You rise the next day and continue your journey. And arguably, this might be a very good place to stop, but I'm not going to do that. As you leave the green gloom of the forest behind you, warmed by bright sunlight, you see in the distance gentle hills golden with ripening corn. A river valley runs southeast away from you towards an anvil-shaped pole of black cloud. "Do not be deceived by the tamed beauty of the hills," says Glavis. "That corn will feed only slaves. We cannot scale the mountains to the north. We must use guile and stealth to cross these accursed lands. From this point, be on your guard against half-orcs, orcs, the priest of death, and—" he drops his voice a shade, "Gnar. That cloud hangs over the city called the Walls of Shadow. Only those steeped in evil live there. It is one of the few cities from which every last mission chapel of the gods of good have been driven forth." Glavis says little more, and you walk on in silence. You're about to ask who or what is Gnar when you reach the banks of the small river. Cresting the hill beyond is a high hedge. Glavis calls it the Palisade of Thorns, and you must scale it or detour many miles. You wade the river and carefully climb the hill. The outside of the palisade has not been trimmed, and you are able to clamber to the top without being pricked by any of its poisonous thorns, then leap to the cornfield below. The inside of the hedge is newly cut and overhangs. It has been decided not to keep the people out, but to keep them in. There are mud brick guard huts at intervals around the perimeter to either side, and you both drop to your bellies to worm your way through the ripening corn, which grows so close that you cannot avoid leaving a narrow tunnel of flattened straw behind you. A black hawk's cry startles you, and you look up to see the great bird circling above you before veering away again ahead of you and to the right. And we all know that Black Hawk means trouble. Glavis hopes that it may have been just a wild bird, and you continue to worm your way stealthily through the corn, but before long, the Black Hawk returns to circle high above you, crying loud. Will you try to silence it with a shuriken? If we do, and we know that it fails because it's out of range, we probably wouldn't be able to recover the throwing star from its body anyway. Get up and run. That would just be breaking cover, and we wouldn't know which way to run. We could be surrounded on all sides. Continue to crawl on your belly, turning to the left. In theory, away from the direction the bird was originally reporting to, but we would leave a very obvious trail. Or crawl back the way you have come. Inside the trail of already flattened corn, we are not Theresa May. But come what may, the hawk can locate us, but it may take the pursuers some time to find us if the hawk doesn't immediately point out our location. They might get confused. Imagine this column up the middle is the path we're taking. If we go back way along it and they're heading towards the end, where the hawk was last, if the hawk goes back to report and then comes back and forth a few times, it might take a while and there could be some discoordination. So we're going to crawl backwards. Which also was, I think, possibly my first idea last time. I gotta trust my gut more in this book, I think. You turn back and crawl quickly along the tunnel you have made through the cornstalks, but Glavis has gone on. Soon the palisade of thorns... Oh, if we split up and gone in different directions, that does make it so the bird can only follow one of us at a time. Soon the palisade of thorns looms before you, and you stand up to climb it and escape. There is a shout behind you, and you see that the half-orcs have followed you, guided by the Black Hawk. Glavis has escaped, but you have the palisade before you and 20 spear tips behind. If you have the skill of arrow cutting, which we absolutely do, turn to section 222. That will be very helpful, I imagine. You deftly catch the first of their spears and knock 2 more aside by their shafts. Several more have missed, thudding into the hedge. Only 5 of the half-orcs still have spears with which to threaten you. You drop down into the corn and creep up on them, exploding into a flurry of violence in their midst. You have disarmed, killed, or set to flight the half-orcs within a matter of seconds. Their bullwhips are ineffectual as weapons, and you have lost only 2 endurance. Will you climb the palisade and try to skirt the walls of shadow to the south, without Glavis, or try to track down Glavis once more? Now, I believe Glavis may feature in future books, so it's best to ensure his survival. Look, he might survive if we abandon him here, but it's probably a bad idea. Let's go find where he's got to. He's a friend, we shouldn't let him down. It's not hard to follow Glavis's tracks through the corn, and soon you hear his voice urging you to get down as the Black Hawk circles above you once more. He has been tracking you, and you have met close to the thorn hedge. It is not long before another group of half-orcs run towards you. Glavis springs up, beckoning for you to follow. Oh, it's getting tense. Lots of action. As you both break cover, the chase is on. Half-orcs brandishing their spears and bullwhips, trot along, breaking down the corn like a pack of wolves following their prey. You can run faster than they, but as the Black Hawk wheels through the air and then flies off ahead of you, you decide not to tire yourselves yet, content with simply keeping them at a distance. After a few minutes' hard work running through the corn, you espy a group of men and women, chained together and wearing soiled rags, breaking rocks in a fallow field. Orcish overseers chivvy them with slave lashes. You skirt around them, and some of the orcs take up the chase, while the slaves stare dully, treating your sudden appearance as no more than a break in the monotonous drudgery of their hopeless lives, for no one ever escapes from within the palisade of thorns. Except perhaps for today. We're going to have to waste so much inner force. As you run, Glavis says that there are guard huts all around the hedge, which is 20 miles round. Wherever you try to scale it, you will have to fight, so he suggests you run east, the way you wish to go, avoiding as much trouble as you can. Twice you turn south to avoid new parties of guards, until it feels as though a multitude of orcs and half-orcs is closing in from all sides, and still the Black Hawk circles above you. At last you see the other side of the palisade of thorns and sprint through the rippling corn before any guards stationed there can group together to repulse or capture you. As the hedge looms near, you are startled as a row of 10 half-orcs rise suddenly from crouching positions in the corn. You're running towards their spear points. If you have the skill of arrow cutting, which we absolutely do, we've had it since Book 1 and even in Book 2, we're going to section 196. One of the half-orcs hurls his spear at you, but you knock it aside with ease and go to the same section we would have done without taking any damage. The section of death. Glavis's sword is like a rod of red ruin as he meets the grotesque half-orcs in combat. 4 of them cluster round you, jabbing with their spears. You're unable to block. For each attack you are forced to make, you stand a chance of being wounded. You decide to use kicks to batter them senseless. 4 half-orcs with 9 endurance points each. Let's go mark 'em. In theory, 4 inner force kicks ought to do it. Their defense against a kick is 5, so we need to get over a 5 on 2d6 plus 2, which is pretty easy. Every time you attack, you must make a fate roll. If you score a 1 or 2 on one die, you have been hit. If you win, turn to 95. We're going to try to win. So we're going to start with a inner force kick. Let's try to get that first one down. That is a glorious inner force kick. 8, 16 damage, topples one of the half-orcs, making us feel much safer. Let's just take them off the bottom. Then we'll go for our luck roll. A 2 and a 1. Ow. We've been hit 1 die of damage. 5 points. That hurts. Just when this session was going well. We got hit hard, so we're going for another inner force kick. We hit. We kill. Excellent. Now, it's worth noting that Glavis can absolutely murder all the ones he's tackling, because this is based on 1st edition, before the 2nd edition books came out, which means that as a ranger, he gets a number of attacks per round equal to his level against goblin-class monsters, which includes orcs and half-orcs. So yeah, he's absolutely murdering a load of them, while we're just fighting. He's killing 6 while we're fighting 4, okay? And he's probably going to help with these 4 a bit as well. Well, it looks like we need to make another fate roll. 6 and a 2. Bugger! 3 more damage. Ow! Okay, we've got to use a 3rd point of inner force. Because we can't kill with a single kick. We hit, 14 points, we get the kill. And a luck roll. 4 and a 3, we're not wounded. At this point, we can risk trying to kill the last half-orc with 2 kicks instead of 1. But we've got 6. No, we can't. We have to go now or never. Inner force, kick. Because we kick, we kill, and we don't need to make another luck roll and risk death. We have survived, but that is a brutal fight. It's a bit like the Brigand fight from Book 2, in that it's got a very nasty mechanic that makes you need to finish it quickly or die. The bodies of the half-orcs lie around you in the corn. Glavis wipes his sword dry and you climb the palisade of thorns to find a barren heathland beyond. As you look back to the hedge of thorns, you are dismayed to see a concealed gateway opening in its side and 50 or more half-orcs pouring out of it. As the Black Hawk still circles above you, you run on, covering the ground more easily now that you are out of the corn. Glavis suggests that you keep going. He is more worried at the prospect of other, more powerful minions of death learning that you are abroad than by the half-orcs, and he regrets that he has not brought his longbow. The half-orcs cannot match your pace, but any orcs among them will be able to track you by smell. Glavis tells you that the land between here and the city of the Runes of Doom is dotted with forbidding castles around a flat plain called the Slave Fields. You slip past a turreted keep and at dusk into the Slave Fields. The slaves are staked out under canvas awnings next to the fields which they are harvesting. There are orcish guards with each group. Glavis tells you that by order of the Fleshless King, only orcs may be used as overseers, as they have never been known to show humans the slightest compassion. Glavis motions you to hide with him behind a tree and then puts a choice to you. He fears that the gods of evil may have found a way to let the Fleshless King know who you are. The Black Hawk is gone, but vampire bats flit past. The choice is between running on all night, as we did in episode 2, or trying to creep under one of the canvas awnings to hide. We can actually attempt that, because we're so badly injured I think we need to try and get some rest. Using your garrote, you silently choke one of the orcish overseers and you both slip under a canvas awning which flaps in the night wind. There are no slaves using it for shelter, so Glavis takes the opportunity to tell you of the Spectral Company. They are 9. Each was once a baron, lord of many men. They came from the city of Grey Dawn and worshipped the god of empire, Moraine. They were the 9 generals who led the men of Grey Dawn in search of empire on a quest to conquer the Valley of the Lich Kings, which in those days was called the Valley of Grain. Hence all the orcs and half-orcs keeping human slaves here and growing grain to feed the slaves. The Fleshless King was newly returned from the dead and still active those centuries ago. He rode at the head of his troops. The power of his magic cast down the generals and he took them to be his servants, killing them and bringing their tormented bodies back to life. Now in the form of spectres which can suck a man's life from him with a touch, they cow everyone in the valley. Their leader, Ganar, is a powerful sorcerer, the Fleshless King's brother, differing from him only in that his body has retained its cloak of flesh, and the fact that part of his brain festered many centuries ago. As you crouch still beneath the awning, a faint but doleful cry is borne to you on the wings of the night wind. You look to Glavis in the starlight, and he says, That was no mortal cry, but that is the cry of the sylph, imprisoned in the great keystone above the west gate of the city of the runes of doom. It is a signal that Ganar leads the Spectral Company forth tonight. Glavis gives you a small crystal vial. It is holy water, blessed in the name of the All-Mother. Cast it at the faces of the undead at need. You swallow nervously at the grim expression on the ranger's face. There is a splat of naked footsteps in the mud, and a girl child of about 50 or so seasons squirms under the awning, looking fearfully over her shoulder for any signs of pursuit as she does so. Your eyes, as sharp as an owl's in the gloom, pick out her scrawny form and the squalid, torn and muddied sackcloth tunic, inadequate protection against the cold of the night. She cannot see in the gloom, and she begins to sob quietly, oblivious to your presence. We could nudge Glavis in the ribs and motion that we wish to leave, or speak to the slave girl. Well, first off, we're going to write down the holy water. And I feel we will speak to her. She probably doesn't even know we are here. Softly you speak a word of greeting. The girl freezes, then looks around wildly. She still cannot see you in the pitch blackness, but she shuffles away from you on her haunches. You speak gently to her once more, and she demands to know in a quivering but suspicious voice who you are. Will you tell her the truth, or say that you are temple guards at the Purple Cathedral of Death in the City of the Runes of Doom? Why would we pretend to be her tormentors, the ones she is clearly fleeing from or taking shelter from? We won't do that. We'll tell her the truth. Well, some of the truth. You tell the slave girl that you are journeying to your homeland in the Man March, and that you have chosen to pass through this dangerous region to trick your many enemies who wish you dead. Glavis says merely that he is a ranger who is helping his friend. She creeps closer to see you more clearly, and when you show no sign of wishing to do her harm, she volunteers her name, Griselle. She tells you that she is an orphan. Her sisters have been taken away by the priests of death for sacrifice, and she pleads with you to take her with you. There is utter desperation in her frail voice, and you realize you are her only hope, for tomorrow the Orcish overseers will catch her. You look at Glavis, but he looks away, offering no help. Will you take Griselle with you, or dig the ranger in the ribs and motion that you wish to leave? Obviously he doesn't want to take her with us. She could be a burden, she could be a problem. But we worship Quan the Redeemer, a god of good. We do good deeds. We will rescue this slave girl, and ignore the fact that we recognize her name from the previous episode. Glavis groans quietly as you tell Griselle that you will save her. The surprise and hope in her voice make the risks seem worthwhile. Griselle huddles close to you, her bony body hard against your firm muscles. She takes a locket from its place of concealment in her hair and hands it to you, saying that an old woman gave it to her for protection in the slave train. It is blue porcelain in the shape of a heart, and it opens up to reveal a wispy lock of golden hair. It is the forelock of a girl who never told a lie in her whole life. She was a saint. Keep it. I don't need it now that I have you to protect me. Why is your face all covered up? You thank her for the locket and stow it away safely. Come, we must leave this place, you say, and Griselle follows you both out from under the awning. We had better turn north away from the city, says Glavis. Now, I'm going to look at my backup character sheet from like a few years ago. I called this heart-shaped blue porcelain locket Saint's Forelock. There we go. $2.15. You run for many miles towards the mountains, which tower blackly above you, carrying Griselle when she can run no further. She is nothing but a sack of bones weighing less than a cornstack. Your acute sense of hearing picks up the sound of distant hoofbeats, and you have a premonition of doom. Griselle wails in fear. You tell Glavis that there are 4 horses approaching, and he says, "They have found us. We must make a stand." Griselle climbs down from your back, and you climb quickly towards a narrow canyon mouth flanked by sheer cliffs, and wait. This might be the same canyon at which we faced our foes in the last episode. You do not have long to wait. 4 figures on horseback approach at a slow walk. Their countenances are cruel, and they seem to look upon you with contempt. You can see right through them, and their clothes, once gaudy material finery, are now no more than a ghostly shimmering, but the might of their evil intelligence is almost palpable as they advance to take you. Griselle screams and then faints, overcome with terror. Her body rolls down the slope towards them, while Glavis unravels a scroll of parchment and begins to chant. One of them dismounts beside Griselle, while the other charges you. The spectre stoops over the slave girl and draws the life out of her body with a touch. If you wish to attack using your martial arts straight away, that could be a problem. Or if you wish to try some other form of attack, we absolutely do have a flask of holy water, and we're advised on how it should be used. As the nearest spectre charges you, you take out the vial of holy water which Glavis gave you and hurl it at the shimmering face of the nearest spectre knight. Make a shuriken roll. We don't seem to have a modifier for that. The spectre makes no move to defend itself, and you must score a 6 or more to hit. Okay, 2 dice. We got a 9. It's a 6 upside down, it still counts. We have absolutely succeeded, and fighting 2 of them at once may be a problem. So that was good for us. The vial smashes in the spectre's face, and there is an unearthly scream as the holy water cuts like a powerful acid into the undead monster. It clasps its face in helpless anguish and sets spurs to its warhorse, which promptly bolts, leaving you with only 1 foe to deal with, but you have no holy water left. Glavis is still chanting as the second spectre charges you. It towers above you on its warhorse, and you decide to dodge, then launch yourself into a high kick to try and knock it from the saddle. The spectre's defense as it tries to claw your leg is 8. So we are making a kick roll. We do not succeed. If you fail but are carrying a locket given to you by the slave girl Griselle, turn to 287. We don't get to read anything else. We just go straight there. One of the spectre's taloned claws catches you, and you feel your life force ebbing away. But then the cold talon touches the locket which Griselle gave you. It truly contains a lock of Saint's hair, and the spectre recoils as if burnt. You whip out the locket, and the spectre turns to flee. Glavis's scroll seems to have banished one of his foes, which turns to dust in moments. He has cast a raise dead spell on the long undead warlord, whose body has suffered the decay of centuries in seconds. The 4th spectre turns tail and gallops after his fleeing companions. You have fought against members of the Spectral Company and lived, but Griselle is beyond help. The magic from the ranger's scroll is spent, and you must leave her frail body to rot. Glavis hopes that you will rescue the other members of the company, for you will surely die now. Glavis hopes that you will escape the other members of the company, for you will surely die now if found by them. You skirt the mountains, entering the wilderness at dawn. You have travelled through the valley of the Lich Kings from one end to the other. You run on through the day, and looking back, you see several grey figures on magnificent black horses following your trail. There are 7 of them, and as they begin to catch you up, you see that it is the other 6 of the Spectral Company. Ganar is at their head. You sprint towards the line of white boundary stones topped with black pitch and down a slope beyond. Looking back, you see that the spectres have reined in at the boundary and now stare balefully as you flee. They do not pass the line of stones, but they watch until you are beyond the horizon. You have escaped them. Glavis guides you past the city of Grey Dawn, counselling you not to risk your life by entering the city, and at last you turn north past the mountains of Horn. Glavis has decided to return to Tor across the Man March. At the parting of ways, Glavis gives you a beautiful silver shuriken, and he kisses your forehead, wishing you luck and the wisdom of long years. Then he is gone, leaving no trail as you call your thanks. Well, we will absolutely remove the holy water and add the silver shuriken. But I'm thinking this is a very good time to end the episode narratively. We've defeated the 9 riders. Yes, that should sound very familiar. And made it through a harrowing ordeal. I think we've done quite well there. How do you guys feel about it? Maybe throw a few comments down below. You know the comment section's there, you can use it if you want to. I'm going to end this episode here. I hope you've all enjoyed this one, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the very next episode. I'll say goodbye for now though, and cheerio everyone. See you all soon.